Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll continue. Starting with text 20. It's a break in the flow. Brahma has finished speaking, delivering his message, his blessings, his requests. He's now departing. And Kardamuni is getting ready to do what he's going to do next. So, text 20. Maitreya is the speaker, if you recall from the beginning part of third canto. After Krishna, while Krishna was speaking Uddhava Gita in Dwarka to Uddhava, Maitreya was also there. After Uddhava Gita was spoken, Krishna said to Maitreya, very soon my dear devotee Vidura will come, and I would like you, Maitreya, to deliver transcendental knowledge to him. And so Vidura on pilgrimage came to Dwarka. There he met Uddhava, and he had some discussion. Uddhava sent him to go find Maitreya. He went to find Maitreya, and he's now with Maitreya, and for at least a canto and a half. I haven't looked at how many chapters, but substantial portion of this third canto, and then into the fourth canto, it's Maitreya speaking to Vidura, delivering transcendental knowledge. And so this is Maitreya speaking to Vidura about, from the earlier parts, Brahma's creation, after Brahma's creation, several things, including Kardama and Kardama's marriage to Devahuti. And so he's just as part of the flow of the Bhagavad Gita, the descriptions of the pure devotees and the Supreme Lord and their activities. So Maitreya is speaking to Vidura. After thus speaking to Kardama Muni and his wife Devahuti, Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, who is known as Hamsa, went back to the highest of the three planetary systems on his swan carrier with the four Kumaras and Narada. So I mentioned that the scene that was taking place, many sages, demigods, and the Kumaras and Narada were present. So now they're going back with Brahma. Purport. The words Hangsena Yanena are very significant here. Hamsa Yana, the airplane by which Brahma travels all over outer space, resembles a swan. Brahma is also known as Hamsa because he can grasp the essence of everything. His abode is called Tridhama Paramam. There are three divisions of the universe: upper planetary systems, middle planetary systems, and lower planetary system. But his abode is above even Siddhaloka, the upper planetary system. He returned to his own planet with the four Kumaras and Narada because they were not going to be married. The other rishis who came with him, such as Marichi and Atri, remained because they were to be married to the daughters of Kardama. But his other sons, Sanat, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatana and Narada went back with him in his swan-shaped airplane. The 4 Kumaras and Narada are Naishtika brahmacharis. Naishtika brahmachari refers to one who never wastes his semen at any time. They were not to attend the marriage ceremony of their other brothers, Mrichi and the other sages, and therefore they went back with their father, Hamsa. I'll read a little bit more. There's a number of verses without purports. O Vidura, after the departure of Brahma, Kardama Muni, having been ordered by Brahma, handed over his 9 daughters as instructed to the 9 great sages who created the population of the world. So this is the Prajapati program. Kardama Muni handed over his daughter Kala to Marichi, and another daughter, Anasuya, to Atri. He delivered Shraddha to Angira and Havir Bhu to Palastya. He delivered Gati to Pulaha, the chaste Kriya to Kratu, Khyati to Brighu, and Arundhati to Vishishta. He delivered Shanti to Atharva. Because of Shanti, sacrificial performances are well performed. Thus he got the foremost brahmanas married, and he maintained them along with their wives. Thus married, the sages took leave of Kardama and departed full of joy, each for his own hermitage, O Vidura. Text 26. That's as far as we're going to go this morning. When Kardama Muni understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief of all the demigods, Vishnu, had descended, Kardama approached him in a secluded place, offered obeisances, and spoke as follows. Purport: the Lord is called Tri-Yuga. He appears in 3 yugas, Satya, Treta, and Dwarapa. But in Kali Yuga, he doesn't appear. From the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, however, we understand that he appears, garbed as a devotee in Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya is that devotee. Krishna appeared in the form of a devotee, but although he never disclosed himself, Rupa Goswami could understand his identity, for the Lord cannot hide himself from a pure devotee. Rupa Goswami detected him when he offered his first obeisances to Lord Chaitanya. He knew that Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself, and therefore he offered his obeisances with the following words. Quote, I offer my respects to Krishna, who has now appeared as Lord Chaitanya. Unquote. This is also confirmed in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. In Kali Yuga, he does not directly appear, but he appears as a devotee. Vishnu, therefore, is known as Tri-Yuga. Another explanation of Tri-Yuga is that he has 3 pairs of divine attributes, namely, here's the 3 pairs: power and affluence, piety and renown, and wisdom and dispassion. According to Sridhar Swami, his 3 pairs of opulences are complete riches and complete strength, complete fame and complete beauty, and complete wisdom and complete renunciation. There are different interpretations of Tri-Yuga, but it is accepted by all learned scholars that Tri-Yuga means Vishnu. When Kardama Muni understood that his son Kapila was Vishnu himself, he wanted to offer his obeisances. Therefore, when Kapila was alone, he offered his respects and expressed his mind as follows. The two main parts to this morning's texts. The role of the ashrams, Grahastha ashram and Sannyas ashram. They're different, in simple language, there's different positions of service. And in the position of Grahastha ashram, the combination or mixing of male-female, that's the nature of the ashram. And from that position, some service can be rendered. Interesting, I found that Kardama Muni not only got these 9 sages married, they were brothers, also sons of Lord Brahma, but he maintained them. And that's a function of Grahastha ashram that Prabhupada would speak of commonly. Some years ago I was asked to speak about the duties of Grahastha, so I did a reasonably comprehensive search, and what Prabhupada spoke about duties of Grahasthas, and very consistently and repeatedly, Grahasthas are to be charitable, and charitable specifically, he would say, there are 4 ashrams, and one of them is earning wealth and distributing wealth, and the other 3 are not earning wealth. They may receive wealth and charity, which they in turn accept whatever their modest requirements are and distribute the rest for service to Vishnu or Krishna. But this one ashram maintains the other 3. They maintain themselves and the other 3. And it's besides it's appropriate and very practical, it allows or provides for the Grahasthas to do that service and do it in the mood of detachment, while receiving wealth, not to become proprietary, but give that wealth in a prescribed manner, not whimsical, but in a prescribed manner, consciously, religiously, appropriately, charity. Now that same idea to find its way in other traditions. One devotee I know who was a president, who was raised in a Catholic tradition, has expressed several times, in Catholicism there's these 3 things: faith, hope, and charity. Kind of like pillars for the Catholic Church. Faith, hope, and charity. So, faith in God, hope that you can say is detachment from the fruits of work. Not the language, but the capacity of the person, the compassion of the personality of Godhead is where I have hope in Him, not in me. I serve It's not the language that's used, but it's comparable in our Vedic perspective. I serve, and He's the maintainer. I have faith in Him. He will maintain me, and that which I receive in a conscious, conscientious, appropriate manner, given charity. Of course, Catholic Church appeals that people give to the Church. But their structure, as far as I understand it, is there's the Church and then there's Catholic Charities, and people are encouraged to, if it goes to the Church, it stays with the Church. And there's also Catholic Charities that then does charitable work in the name of the Church. But it's two different entities, two different structures, and so forth. But it's a fundamental part, back to the Bhagavatam. Charitable spirit is part of a Grahasta's duty in practical and appropriate ways. There's a nice section of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates. One of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates was excessively charitable. He was very wealthy, and he gave away all his wealth all the time. So his family was in need. He was being so charitable elsewhere. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had one of his very capable additional associates take care of the finances of that householder. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated his magnanimity, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to look after this nice devotee so that he and his family would have their necessities. Anyway, appropriate charity, but charity. And the other affair, aside from home, is children. In the case of the Prajapatis, these sons of Brahma, it's purposeful, specifically to fill up the universe or add population to the universe that was created by the design or the intention of Lord Vishnu, so that living entities would have an opportunity, A and B, to fulfill their desires and to be rectified from misuse of free will by the purpose of creation. An opportunity to do that and come to full consciousness. So that requires quality offspring, children. And it requires, just as we heard previously, quality Devahuti to be married to quality Kardama, and thus 9 wonderful daughters and the personality of Godhead as their son. So that's another part of Grahasta's duty, is qualify oneself to be able to bring forth into this world qualified souls, and then to train those qualified souls. That's responsible life. There's other kinds, irresponsible life, but the Vedic method is a life of responsibility, and that responsibility is to be guided by Guru Sadhu Shastra. So these great sages, they're qualified, and the wives that they were married to, certified, also qualified. Doesn't give the reasoning. Maybe it's presented elsewhere. But from the previous verse, text 15, the instruction of the instruction of Brahma was that they were to be matched by yatha shilam and yatha ruchi, by similar character and taste. Shilam means behavior, but behavior is based in character. So that's what Kardama Muni did, understanding the character of both parties. And then we have this list, and later on we'll see this list appearing again later on in Bhagavatam when the Prajapati activities continue. So now, rather than identify from the combination of this sage and that wife what was the result, where it goes straight on to the theme of the chapter. So this is the second part. Kardama Muni approaching his son, who he knows is Lord Vishnu. He knows just on his own. Lord Vishnu said, Brahma confirmed, his son is Lord Vishnu. So, obviously, the previous section was Kapila Dev was within the womb of Devahuti. Now he's no longer in the womb of Devahuti, he is a young man. And at that appropriate time, he wants to go and pay his respects to his son, who is Lord Vishnu. Then the focus in the purport is upon Triyuga, how Lord Vishnu as Kapila is being identified, Triyuga. So there's different explanations, two, and it indicates there are others. And the conclusion is Vishnu is Triyuga, where we find that Triyuga means Lord Vishnu. So the first of them is, the first of the two, is he appears in Satya, Treta, and Dwapara Yuga, and he doesn't appear as the Lord in Kali Yuga, and therefore Triyuga. But he appears in Kali Yuga as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this particular Yuga cycle, as the devotee of Vishnu. Although he's Vishnu, he appears as the devotee of Vishnu. And we hear some of the reasons why. In the previous Yuga, he appeared as Krishna and taught to surrender to Krishna, and then he appeared to teach how to surrender to Krishna. And who could teach better than Krishna himself, or Vishnu himself, how to serve the Lord? So he appears as the devotee of the Lord, although the Lord himself. That's one of the explanations. We find another explanation. That's Sridhar Swami's explanation. And Sridhar Swami's is 3 pairs of 2, because from Vishnu Purana we find that Parashara Muni identifies Bhagavan as full in 6 opulences. He lists them, and then Sridhar Swami takes that and combines them into 3 pairs of 2. Thus, Triyuga. That's another rendering of the Triyuga terminology. So, Lord Vishnu is Triyuga. Triyuga is Vishnu. It's Lord Vishnu who was within the womb of, who was in the womb of Devahuti, who is now appearing as the son of Kardama. And the next verse begins what Kardama says, his prayers. Prior to the marriage of Devahuti and Kardama, by the indication of Narada, Narada visited the palace of Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, and while at the palace of Swayambhuva Manu, sannyasi Narada told Devahuti about Kardama. And she went, whoa, 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 I want to marry Kardama. He was doing a matchmaker program. as a sannyasi. But as a service to the personality of Godhead. So then Devahuti wished to marry Kardama, hearing about him. And when Kardama accepted the marriage proposal, it was on the condition that when there's a son, he already knew who that son would be, but when there's a son of mature age, then Swayambhuva, I'll agree to accept the responsibility of marriage to your daughter, with the condition that when there's a mature son, I can depart from this family responsibility. Because that's a Vedic principle. Devahuti would be protected. He agreed. A little detail. And Kapila left after Kardama left. So, wait a minute. Was Kapila irresponsible, leaving his mother unprotected after Kardama, his father, had left? And that's discussed coming up, but she was fully protected by very clear instructions, because we're hearing repeatedly the instructions were for achieving liberation. That is, she had then shelter in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, Kapila was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after he departed, she had, by his teachings and her acceptance and application, she was fully in the care of the Personality of Godhead. There were maid servants who were there to look after her needs, but she was fully protected. And there were occasions during Prabhupada's time when married women, their husband died or in some way or another departed, and they wanted to know what to do. And in some occasions, Prabhupada said, make Krishna your husband. So this is Devahuti making her achieving a perfection by association and shelter in the Personality of Godhead. There is protection. And one last thing, there are other circumstances that come to mind of Narada being the matchmaker. Narada, for example, informed Rukmini about Krishna. And so, hearing from Narada about Krishna, she wanted to marry Krishna. These are services that are extraordinary, because Narada is an extraordinary devotee. And in service to Krishna, one may do whatever Krishna wants. So, but the standard is, in this case, off they go, the four Kumaras and Narada, back to Brahmaloka, and staying away from the marriage program. Now, Brahma's also married, and that exists in Brahmaloka, but they weren't participating in that function, the marriage function, and what followed it. Okay, so any thoughts or comments on this? Yes.
Maharaj, you talked about charity. When we talk about mode of goodness, like the qualities like compassion, kindness,
Yes.
generosity, all of them are...
Charity fits in there too, yeah.
And when we talk about contamination from the modes, including the mode of goodness, and trying to come out of the contamination from mode of goodness, does that mean we need to give up these qualities?
No, it means you do them for Krishna exclusively. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, for Premanandi.